Hello, welcome to HITC Sport. Right, let's take a look at what one player from every Premier League club is going to quit their team and move somewhere else in the January transfer window. Lads, in these cases, I'm pretty confident I'm going to get every single one right. I might be wrong about some of the destinations, but trust me, not a single one of these upcoming footballers will still be at their current club in February. Not a chance. Right, let's go. Arsenal, Mesut Ozil, Fenerbahce. Okay, let's be honest, it doesn't take a genius to realise that Mesut Ozil is leaving Arsenal in January. What possible reason would he have to stay? To spend another 6 months of his life employed to be a cheerleader on the internet? No, the club barely even acknowledges his existence anymore. Arsenal are in a virtual relegation scrap, and yet still, Mikel Arteta is trying to pretend that he doesn't need the help of a world champion. Lads, he's playing with Ozil, and I promise you, the German had more ability and talent in his wrinkly nutsack than Arteta had in his entire being. Anyway, he'll be off in January, probably to somewhere like Fenerbahce, where he'll be worshipped as an utter god in that country, and probably spend his Sunday night drinking beer out of a shoe with the Turkish president. A far cry from his reception out in Germany, where he'd probably get a stale pie chucked at his head if he tried to walk down a crowded street in Berlin. Aston Villa, Ahmed Elmohamady sat at the end. Here's a football stat that rings true. If you see Ahmed Elmohamady employed at a football club, that is a telltale sign that Steve Bruce has been there. Yeah, the Egyptian right back is just a stale reminder of the Bruce era Villa Park. You know, when cabbages were getting tossed about the crowd. Good Christ, Bruce has bought in more times than he signed his own goddamn son. If it wasn't for football's version of Mrs. Doubtfire, then Elmohamady would still be stuck in Egypt. Anyway, clearly Dean Smith has nothing but disdain for the reminders of his predecessor. He's given Elmohamady just half an hour of Premier League action this season, and since they've been knocked out of the EFL Cup by Stoke, he really doesn't need him for anything anymore. He'll be sold to some lowly French club, let's say Bordeaux or Saint Etienne. Brighton, Tariq Lamptey, Arsenal. Yeah, Brighton fans will be furious with this, but lads, the media are in love with Tariq Lamptey. I can't remember the last time the country's press spent so much time foaming over a Brighton right back. By comparison, most neutrals view Bruno as just some bang average baldy bastard who they wouldn't even spit at in the street. But lads, I think he'll be off in January. The 20-year-old is a Londoner, and Arsenal are in such a crisis to the point that their own highly paid right back can't even take a damn throw-in anymore. Lamptey will want to return to a big club in his home city, giving himself an outside chance of making Euro 2021. Lads, this is going to happen. Burnley, Matai Vydra, Derby County. Okay, let's be honest, Matai Vydra is a 28-year-old Czech striker who belongs nowhere near the Premier League. The guy is championship standard written all over his face. Christ, Burnley can't score for love nor money, and Sean Dyche still won't let him stroll onto the pitch. He'll get a return to the championship with, let's say, Derby County, his former club, where he bagged in 20 goals a season back in 2018. Because I'm pretty sure Wayne Rooney would happily swap one of his kids for a 20-goal striker right now. Chelsea, Olivier Giroud, Inter Milan. Okay, yes, I know Olivier Giroud has wriggled himself back in a Frank Lampard starting 11, but I'm sorry, the guy is leaving Stamford Bridge in January. He just is. Yes, this time last year he wanted to quit the club to get first team football, but then he rejected both Newcastle and Inter Milan, got himself a few games under his belt, and then bam, out of the team again for the first third of this season. Back to square one. This guy wants to keep his place on France's starting 11. He's the guy hunting down Thierry Henry's record to become all-time top goal scorer for his country. So the last thing he needs right now is 6 months sweating over whether or not Tammy Abraham slips in the shower. He'll finally get his January move. My prediction is Inter Milan. The collection dump for stale Premier League players nobody wants anymore. Crystal Palace, Michy Batshuayi, Galatasaray. Michy Batshuayi probably can't believe what's happened to his career. This is a former £30 million goal machine. He's currently 27 and supposed to be in the prime of his career. In his head, he probably thought he'd be Chelsea's main striker, the modern day reincarnation of Didier Drogba, or at the very least Nicolas Anelka. No, right now he's the modern day Dwight Gale, just stuffed on Crystal Palace's bench. In the run-up to Euro 2021, the last thing this guy needs is to be behind Christian Benteke in the pecking order, producing just 10-minute cameos off the bench. He'll probably cut his season-long loan deal short and head off to Turkey with someone like Galatasaray. Everton, Cenk Tosun, Fenerbahce. Yeah, here's another fella clearly destined for the Turkish league. Most of you probably forgot Cenk Tosun was even at Everton. He hasn't got a look in a Goodison Park for about 18 months. Carlo Ancelotti probably barely even knows the guy's name. Again, Turkey have qualified for the Euros, and their goal-scoring talisman needs to keep sharp with regular games, not to spend the rest of the season shoved in a duffel coat on the bench. Again, I can see a move to someone like Fenerbahce or Istanbul Basaksehir, with Everton finally banishing the last remaining stain from the dull Big Sam era. Apart from a few jammy donut stains in the dugout, that is. Fulham, Michael Hector, Reading. The last thing Michael Hector wants right now is another move. This fella is a 28-year-old centre-back who spent his life living out of a suitcase. During his 6 years at Reading, he was loaned out 11 times. From Reading to Bracknell, Aldershot, Didcot. Sounds like a David Brent speech. Having a Waterlooville, Horsham, Dundalk, good Christ. But if he wanted to stop the eternal chain of loan moves, then why did he move to Chelsea? It was just more of the same. This guy has made his debut for 18 different clubs. But lads, he'll be on the move again. He started the first 3 games of the season for Fulham. Well, that coincided with a succession of 10 goals being laughed off the telly. This former Chelsea graduate hasn't been given a sniff of action since then. Yeah, he'll pack his bags and move back to the Championship. Leeds, Kiko Casilla, Valencia. Kiko Casilla is a former former Real Madrid goalie. Do you really reckon he wants to sit around all season as Leeds United's number 2, deputising for a 20-year-old child? A goalie still waiting for his first chest hair? A fella whose race through puberty is about as slow as Stephen Tries? Nah, 34-year-old Casilla will want to move back to Spain. Maybe with someone like Valencia where he can challenge for a number 1 spot. Maybe. Leicester, Ozil and Elmohamady, Sporting Lisbon. Yeah, Ozil and Elmohamady, that £27 billion club record signing for Leicester in 2016, he's somehow still at the club. People say he improved during his loan spell at Monaco to the extent he was getting linked with Man United last Christmas. Just utter lunacy. He's been given 90 minutes of football this season. He's not even allowed to play in Brendan Rodgers' Europa League team on Thursday nights. Does this guy really want to hang around the wet and windy Midlands just to pick up a paycheck and sit on the couch? Nah, at 32 he'll probably get himself a January switch. My guess is back to Portugal and Sporting Lisbon. Liverpool, Divock, Origi, Monaco. If you were told back in 2014 that Divock Origi would last 6 years at Anfield, scoring twice against Barcelona and once in a Champions League final, oh, you'd assume the person who told you that had banged their head on a coffee table. To be fair, it's amazing how long Origi has lasted at the club. Let's not forget he flopped on loan at both Lille and Wolfsburg. Christ, but he was named the Ligue 1's worst team of the season back in 2015, alongside Florian Thauvin, weirdly enough. This guy arrived at Liverpool during one of their darkest and most depressing ebbs in their history, just months after that Stevie G slip, and the same summer Luis Suarez was sold to Barcelona. So the fact that his time at Anfield has actually coincided with one of their best eras in the club's history, it's just amazing. He's a cult hero at Liverpool, in the same way Neil Mellor, Vladimir Svica and Milan Baros are, mostly pudding players but loved by the fans because of a few important goals. But lad, he's been given a combined 7 minutes of Premier League action this season. If he has ambitions of playing for Belgium at the Euros, he'll need to quit the club, and he'll need to do it now. Let's say Monaco in France. Man City, Eric Garcia, Barcelona. Eric Garcia is probably the modern day Gerard Piqué, isn't he? I know, even daring to admit that in front of any Man City fan who watched him stumble about like a dying giraffe against Leicester at home, they'd assume you were borderline insane to compare him to a world champion. But lads, Piqué has also failed in Manchester, another Catalan graduate from La Masia who was just not suited for the Premier League. Garcia will be dumped by Guardiola next month, probably shuffling himself back to the Nou Camp. Man United, Daniel James, Leeds United. Daniel James needs to go. I'm sorry, he's probably a nice kid, and he did make that stunning start to his Manchester United career, netting on his debut in a 4-0 win at Chelsea before banging in a screamer at Southampton. But that's it. This isn't some teenage prodigy who might come good in 5 years. No, the guy is 23 years old and hasn't scored a Premier League goal in 16 months. When James Milner was a 23-year-old right winger, he'd already banged in over 20 Premier League goals. Yes, the guy is pace, but his end product would make a toaster cry. He hasn't been seen in the league since that goalless draw at home to Chelsea in October, a game which probably caused everyone who sat through it to immediately chuck their TV licence in a bin. He'll finally get that protracted move to Leeds United next month, but lads, unlike when Eric Cantona and Alan Smith traded clubs, I don't think anyone will care. Newcastle, Matty Longstaff, Nottingham Forest. Matty Longstaff is one of the most overrated players of 2020. Yes, I know his debut goal against Man United was a nice moment, but when contract talk stalled in the summer, Newcastle fans reacted to this news as if they were told their parents were getting divorced. Christ, well, Geordies were practically getting ready to bury themselves alive if Longstaff chose to move to Udinese in the summer. Lads, whisper quietly, neither Longstaff is all that good. We live in a world where the media tipped one for a £50 million move to Old Trafford and the other to wind up starting every week in Serie A. Just nonsense. The Longstaffs are like the bananas in pyjamas. Longstaff can't get in Steve Bruce's team. Given just 29 minutes of Premier League football this season, he's 20 years old now. He's not a teenager, so I can see him giving up on his dream and following Jack Colback to Nottingham Forest, making the former European giants just a rescue home for frustrated Geordie Gingers. Give it 6 months, they'll be offering a contract to HITC James as well. Sheffield United, Lys Mousset, Metz. Remember when Bournemouth flop Lys Mousset started with 5 goals for Sheffield United before Christmas last year? Well, the goals have since dried up. He's only scored once in 2020, can barely make it off Chris Wilder's bench anymore, and the arrival of Ryan Brewster means he's not really needed. I am predicting this club record £10 million signing will move back to France next month. Southampton, Jan Valery, Strasbourg. Yeah, Jan Valery is one of those poor fellas banished into the wilderness after that 9-0 thumping at home to Leicester. This guy's a 21-year-old French right back who's been at Southampton since 2015, where Ralph Hasenhüttl clearly thinks he's as defensively capable as a steak and kidney pie. I assume he'll want to rescue his career next month, returning to the French league. Tottenham, Dele Alli, PSG. Dele Alli has to quit Tottenham next month. There is no realistic way he can put up with this. As it stands, he's a midfielder who can barely get 5 minutes on the pitch in the Premier League. So what chance does he stand of making Gareth Southgate's squad for the Euros? Good Christ, Ross Barkley, a guy whose career has been in a hole for 3 years, even he's suddenly in with a better shot of going to that tournament than Ali. Almost unthinkable for a guy who recently was probably England's most valuable young player. Christ, Mourinho really does not rate this guy. At this rate, he'd probably rather stick the ashes of Muhammad Ali in his midfield than Delhi. So yeah, this guy's being linked with Everton, PSG and Monaco. He'll get him moved to one of those, and if he doesn't, then he and his agent were clearly born with mashed potato brains. Christ, well, imagine going from sitting beside Harry Winks on a bench to starting week in, week out alongside Neymar and Mbappe. Christ above Ali, just go to Paris. West Brom, Charlie Austin, Cardiff City. Remember when Charlie Austin was one of the most confident strikers in the Premier League? Alan Shearer was practically on his knees begging the QPR striker to move to St James's Park. Well, he can't get a look in this season for West Brom. This 31-year-old lump of sweat is returning to the Championship next month. Let's take with Cardiff City. West Ham, Issa Diop, Lille. Remember when Issa Diop was linked to the £75 million switch to Old Trafford in case Harry Maguire opted for Man City? Yes lads, it could have been worse. Because it's 2 years later, David Moyes doesn't even want to pick Diop for West Ham. He's a 23-year-old French centre-back who hasn't started a match since the second game of the season. He'll get him moved to somewhere like Lille. Wolves, Daniel Podence, Juventus. Wolves are an exciting, ambitious club, but they are also a selling club. Daniel Podence has been an utter revelation this season. Arriving from Olympiacos last January for £16 million, this 25-year-old Portuguese midfielder has been utterly brilliant this season. But he's not lasting long at Wolves, and you know what? I can see a surprise big money transfer to Juventus. Completely out of the blue, yes, but hey, maybe Ronaldo will put in a good word for his compatriot. Anyway, that's the end of it lads. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.